good morning students. Now let us have the day 2 for our topic for this week. Our topic is about recipe. Now get your book and turn it on page 77 to page 78. And then later on we will answer your workbook on page 31. Now let us have our value for this month. For our value of this month, we have leadership. So when we say leadership, this is not just a title or designation, but it's about impact, influence, and inspiration. So to inspire other people, you have to be a good leader. Okay, whatever you do, you will be an inspiration to others. Okay, so now let us have our discussion. Now for our objectives, number 1, identify about recipe. Number 2, we're going to list the ingredients and the sources of recipe. Now for our critical thinking, now let me read for you, explain. Education is a recipe. So what does it mean? Education is a recipe. So last day, we talked about recipe. And recipe is the food that you are going to cook. The recipe has ingredients and the direction that you are going to follow. Okay, so in education, whatever you will do, that will be your recipe. For example, me, I became a teacher and that's my recipe. So what did I do? Okay, so the direction is that I do my best to obtain or to meet my recipe, and that's education, and that's my professional. Okay, how about you? Do you want to become a doctor? And that will be your recipe. You need to follow your direction. Okay, now let's begin. Now for our recap, let us have where is cocoa powder comes from, and also sugar. So where is cocoa powder comes from? So cocoa powder comes from cocoa tree or cacao tree. They call it cocoa tree and you can call it cacao tree. So this is it. So these are the fruits of cacao tree. Then after that, you will harvest the fruit and the beans of this fruit will be processed to make a cocoa powder. The beans of this fruit. Then about sugar, it comes from the sugar cane and sugar beets. This one is the sugar beets and the other one is the sugar cane. Then they bring it to the factory and process it for sugar. Okay? Now let us have our discussion. What is a recipe? A recipe is the instructions given to make food. Okay? So that's the instruction to make food. Whatever food you are going to make or to cook, that will be your recipe. Now here, I will show you about the recipe of chocolate cookies. So what are the ingredients? These are the ingredients. Now, make sure that once you cook food, you have a good ingredients. Okay? You need to check the sources of the ingredients that you are going to use. For example, cocoa. It comes from the cocoa tree. And cocoa beans will be crushed to make a cocoa powder. Butter is a dairy product that comes from the milk of animals or cows or goat or sheep. Sugar, it comes from the sugar beets and the other one, yes, the sugar cane. Then milk comes from cows or sheep or goat. Now, you cannot drink the milk from the goat, cows and sheep. But what you are going to do, just after getting the milk, you need to sterilize it. What is sterilization? You have to boil it into boiling point. So if it's already boiled, now let it cool down, then you can drink the milk so that the bacteria will be killed. Okay, now let us have the flour. Flour obtained from grinding wheat grains. And you know already the wheat grains. It comes from wheat plants. Okay, so next, eggs produced by chickens on the farm. So these ingredients are all healthy ingredients. Now that's the time you can make your recipe. Now let us have. Okay, so our recipe is chocolate cookies. Okay, so now let us have these ingredients. So with your ingredients, you need also the measurement. So for cocoa, you need 50 grams of cocoa. Then for sugar, you need 275 grams of sugar. Then for flour, you need 350 grams of flour. Then for butter, you need 150 grams of butter. Then you need 1/4 cup of milk. Then you need 2 eggs. Then after that, to make it more nice to eat, you need 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Then last one is 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder. So this baking powder help your recipe becomes big. Now let us have this. Now a while ago I've shown you the ingredients. Now let us have the directions. Now these are the directions on how to make a chocolate cookies. Very good. Now, number 1, cream the butter and sugar until soft and fluffy. Then, add the eggs and vanilla and mix well. Then, sift together the dry ingredients, including the cocoa. Add the dry ingredients to the eggs and mix well. Then, add milk to form a soft dough. Then, chill in the fridge for 1 hour. Then, roll the dough and flat and cut into round shapes. Then last one, place on a greased baking tray and sprinkle with sugar. Then if you have this, you have prepared all these things. Now it's time for you to put it inside the oven to bake it. Okay, so these are the directions. So what do we need to have a recipe? Number 1 is the ingredients and number 2 is the directions. So now you know already how to have a recipe. I think you can do your own. Okay, you can come up with your good recipe. Okay, so now let us have the recap. Now what does the recipe consist of? Number 1, ingredients, and number 2, directions. Okay, so I hope you understand our topic today. So you will have your own recipe. And what you can do to make your own recipe, you have to list down all the ingredients and make sure that your ingredients are healthy. And then you will have your directions in order to cook your food or to have your recipe. Okay? So let us have our practice. For our practice, get your workbook and turn it on page 31. Then, letter A, you are going to match this to their sources. Sugar comes from, sugar cane and sugar powder. Letter B, butter comes from cow's and, made from cow's milk. Then, number 3, or letter C, milk comes from cows and sheep. And number 4, eggs, or letter D, comes from chicken. Now, let us have our individual assessment. I'm going to give you a paper wherein you can write the ingredients of these sources. Okay, for those who are in your house, you can follow this. Okay? So, for your homework, do question 2 on page 31 of your workbook. Okay, I hope you understand.